Developing news coming out today that Iran has yet again threatened to kill President Donald Trump. Take a look at the latest headlines with me as the tensions between the United States and Iran escalate with the conflict in the Middle East. Top Iranian security officials threaten Trump with death. Watch out for yourself lest you be eliminated. Ali Larijani warns the U.S. president. This coming out in just a little over an hour today, March 10th, 2026. Now, this comes as we saw this message delivered from the president to Iran. It says, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. Additionally, we are using the same technology and missile capabilities deployed against drug traffickers to permanently eliminate any boat or ship attempting to mine the Strait of Hormuz. They will be dealt with quickly and violently. Beware, says President Donald J. Trump. Now, we also saw this morning Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says Tuesday today will be the most intense day of strikes on Iran, and we're hearing it is unfolding just like that today. And coming out just a little while ago, actually less than an hour ago, Trump has responded and said, I am pleased to report that within the past hour, within the last few hours, we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats and or ships, with more to follow, President Donald J. Trump has said in regards to Iran. And as I mentioned, Iran coming out and saying Trump better watch for himself because they're saying lest he be eliminated, threatening the life of Donald Trump to kill him yet again. And this coming as we also have seen today as well that Trump says that he is not happy with Iran's choice of Moshtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader. He said he's not happy with it, and he said that the United States, need to be in charge of choosing who the next leader will be for Iran. So a lot of updates for you, video footage to cover. I'm going to get you caught up on the latest coming out today, March 10th, 2026, as we're hearing that today the United States has announced this will be the most intense day of strikes against Iran. We're hearing that Iran is slowing and the United States is speeding up. Donald Trump said this might not last very long, but we still have got some ways to go. I'm going to play for you all the video footage so that way you can see the latest for yourself. Now, in addition to this, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I've had people asking me about, hey, Steve, what should I be doing financially right now? What can I do with my money? And so I wanted to provide some resources for you guys. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, on average, people save $461 on their car insurance. Takes less than 10 minutes. Maybe you've noticed the car insurance price creep, where you have an insurance company and every year they raise up the money just a little bit until you're being charged outrageous amounts and you didn't realize it. Just checking for less than 10 minutes can save people on average $461. So if you're interested, I got a link down below. I'm also going to look into more ways that you can save and potentially what you should be doing with your money right now while we're in the middle of war. Had a couple of people asking about that, wanted to provide that to you so that way you can know what's going on. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this article coming out in just less than 2 hours from Politico, as we're hearing that just a little while ago today, the IRGC has responded and said that they're going to be threatening the life of Donald Trump. Oh, and if you haven't done so yet, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up like button. If you appreciate the live stream, subscribe to stay up to date. All the articles are going to be linked down below, but let's go ahead and get right to it. Now you can see here this article coming out, less than 2 hours ago. A senior Iranian security official on Tuesday today directly threatened U.S. President Donald Trump as the American-Israeli war on Tehran's clerical regime has continued. Ali Larijani, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, warned Trump, the Ashura-loving nation of Iran does not fear your paper threats. Even those greater than you could not eliminate the Iranian nation. Watch out for yourself lest you be eliminated. Man, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you take these threats from Iran against Donald Trump seriously? Or no? Let me know in the comments, yes or no. Should Donald Trump take these threats seriously? Or is this a regime that is crumbling and desperate and trying to make attempts to scare people and use these tactics when in actuality they are crumbling and falling apart. We're hearing two different stories from each side. Now, he was responding after Trump said that he would hammer Iran if it blocked the Strait of Hormuz, a critical energy choke point in the Gulf. If Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far, the U.S. president wrote on Truth Social. So again, this coming out from the president today, and we're seeing the IRGC responding, threatening the life of Donald Trump. Now, Larijani is a former Revolutionary Guard and one of the most influential politicians within Iran's regime, which has appointed a new supreme leader after former ruler Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in an airstrike. Now, in his post, Trump added, additionally, we will take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back. As a nation, again, death, fire, and fury will rain upon them, but I hope and pray that it does not happen. The U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has driven up oil prices globally, though they eased after Trump signaled yesterday, a possible end to the conflict. So Donald Trump saying that you're going to be feeling some temporary pain as a result of the oil prices. However, he's saying this war will be quick, and once it's over, oil prices will come back down. Now, in addition to that, we also heard Secretary of War Pete Hegseth come out today, Tuesday, and he said that this will be the most intense day of strikes on Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told reporters Tuesday morning from the Pentagon that today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. Hegseth's statements came shortly after he said that the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest amount of missiles that they have fired yet. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that same news conference that the U.S. military is moving into the 11th day of its operations against Iran. Now, Iran is firing off fewer ballistic missiles, drones, since the U.S. campaign began. So we're hearing that Iran is slowing, the United States is speeding up. Kane said the number of ballistic missiles fired off by Iran continues to go down since the first day of the U.S. military's campaign against Iran. Speaking at the Pentagon news briefing, Kane said missile attacks have fallen 90%, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the war began. Hegseth said the numbers show U.S. strikes are making progress by wearing down Iran's defenses and its ability to strike its neighbors and U.S. forces. That is strong evidence of degradation, Hegseth said about the numbers. Now, top U.S. general says no request for tanker escorts through the Strait of Hormuz yet. Kane said the military is considering options to ensure the Strait of Hormuz is open for tanker traffic, but has not yet been asked to escort tankers through the narrow passage. He also said military leaders are looking at a range of options and would present them to Trump if asked. Hegseth noted Trump's threats on Monday to increase strikes on Iran by 20 times if it stops the flow of oil through the strait. He also said that Iran's decision to target its neighbors was a desperate move that would only drive other Middle East nations towards the U.S. I can't say that we anticipated necessarily that's exactly how they would react, Hegseth said, and as I shared with you, we've heard in about the past hour or so that Iran is also directly threatening the life of Donald Trump, saying that they will eliminate him. Hegseth says U.S. is taking the investigation on a school strike very seriously. Responding to a question shouted by a reporter at a news conference about accountability for the strike, Hegseth said that we take things very, very seriously and investigate them thoroughly. No nation takes more precautions to ensure there's never targeting of civilians, he said, adding that open source information shouldn't be used to determine what happened. Satellite images, expert analysts, a U.S. official, and public information suggest explosions that killed at least 165 people, mostly children, was likely caused by U.S. airstrikes that also hit an adjacent compound associated with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard group. Now, Trump erroneously claims Monday that Iran has access to American Tomahawk cruise missiles, the weapons likely used to strike the school. Now, this particular news outlet, PBS, says erroneously. However, I would strike that word. We don't know all the information yet. We will see, but I actually saw that interview with Trump on Air Force One, and he said that it was Iran that struck that school full of children. And it was reported by CNN. They received the information from the IRGC. So take it what you will. The IRGC claiming that the U.S.'s first strike hit a school full of children. CNN right away reporting what it was the IRGC claims the United States did. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who do you believe in this situation? Trump or CNN and the IRGC? Let me know in the comments. But that is currently what we're hearing as far as the updates coming out. And I'm actually going to be playing for you the full report that came out from Hegseth, the press briefing, so that way you can see it for yourself. Stick around. I'm going to be playing that at the end. You can see exactly what it was that he had to say. Now, in addition to that, we're hearing that a new supreme leader has been announced by Iran. Donald Trump not happy about this. Trump says he is not happy with Iran's choice of Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader. Now, Trump warns 32 minutes ago Iran against placing mines in the Strait of Hormuz. I shared with you that from his actual Truth Social, directly sourced. And here's what to know. President Donald Trump told Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst that he is not happy with Iran's choice of Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader. His father, the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed in an airstrike at the onset of Operation Epic Fury. Trump said he does not believe Mojtaba Khamenei can live in peace and said the U.S. operations timeline is way beyond expectations in terms of results coming early. So we're hearing that the United States might have this war done sooner rather than later. President Donald Trump, when asked by Fox News about Mojtaba Khamenei, said, "I don't believe he can live in peace." President Donald Trump warned in a Truth Social post Monday that Iran will be hit 20 times harder if the regime does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said that the U.S. would take out easily destroyable targets that will make it virtually impossible for Iran to ever be built back as a nation, but that he prays that does not happen. U.S. military struck more than 5,000 targets and damaged or destroyed more than 50 Iranian ships in the first 10 days of Operation Epic Fury. U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, said the operation began on February 28th, and targets included command and control centers, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC headquarter buildings and intelligence sites, integrated air defense systems, ballistic missile sites, Iranian Navy ships and submarines, Iranian air defense systems, anti-ship missile sites, military communication capabilities, and ballistic missiles and drone manufacturing sites as well. So we are hearing that this has been the most extensive amount of attacks, the most intense that we have seen so far in this war. And we're hearing the United States is speeding up. Iran is slowing down. However, the Iranian leaders we're hearing are threatening the life of Donald Trump right now. Now, let's go ahead and play for you some video footage so you can see the latest as we're hearing that this conflict is escalating. There is no peace in sight. And Donald Trump is saying, we're just going to keep pushing until we wipe them out. Let's take a look at some video footage so that way you can see the latest. Let me just get this video clip right here straight for you guys so you can see the whole thing. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and take a look.
Jump now to CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman continuing his reporting out of Tel Aviv. Matt, good morning to you. We have these fresh new comments by the president, but fighting continuing in the region where you are. Fill us in on the latest.
Errol, this has been a war that has been fought with missiles and bombs, but now we're seeing something else being lobbed across the Persian Gulf. Threats, Iran threatening to shut down Persian Gulf shipping lanes. President Trump responding that he will rain fire, death, and fury if they do.
Iran vowing this morning that if the war continues, it will not allow a liter of oil through the Persian Gulf choke point of the Straits of Hormuz.
If Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level.
That as the U.S. stepped up attacks on Iran's missile launchers. In Tehran, regime-affiliated fuel depots are still smoldering after an attack over the weekend. Fuel leaked into the sewer system and ignited. The Red Crescent saying at least 1,300 Iranians have been killed. as opponents of the regime were heard screaming "Death to Mujtaba" from the rooftops in reference to just elected new supreme leader, the son of the former leader.
I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country.
President Trump announcing the U.S. has decimated Iran's missile capacity.
We're at over 90% decline in the Iranian missile launchers, which is very hard to reproduce and very hard to get.
But Iran hasn't decreased its attacks on its neighbors in the Persian Gulf. Qatar says it intercepted 17 Iranian ballistic missile attacks on Monday alone, multiple drone attacks on oil-rich Bahrain, a main oil refinery there, burning for 2 days now. After spending the first week of the war hunting Iran's missile launchers, Israel now says it's broadening its targets.
You're taking out the launchers, but we also know that Iran has a very advanced production and manufacturing capacity in terms of rebuilding.
We're operating heavily
That's what you're
against
going
that.
after
We're
right
going
now.
after their production side. We want to make sure that we're not just taking out their missiles and missile launchers. We're also taking out their capability to reproduce them. You want to take the production skills more than you want to take the missiles.
And Errol, after that press conference last night, we're beginning to see President Trump's disposition on regime change in Iran crystallize around what you could call the Venezuelization of Iran, basically taking out the top leadership and then trying to find officials within the remaining regime that the White House can work with. Errol.
All right.
There you have it, you guys. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think that this war is going to continue on through March, or do you think that this war is going to be done this month? Let me know in the comments. Do you think this is going to be done this month? If so, put done, or is this going to continue on? Put continue in the comments. Let me know if this is going to keep going or if this is going to be finished. We're hearing some different reports right now. We're hearing that Donald Trump is saying they're way ahead of schedule. This might be done here very soon. Yet at the same time, we're also hearing that the Pentagon just a couple of days ago said that they are planning this war out just in case it goes out till September. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. But let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage as we're hearing that Trump is responding after the new supreme leader has been chosen.
You're watching Fox and Friends First here on a Tuesday morning. I'm Todd Pyro.
And I'm Carly Shimkus. First, we go to Trey Yanks, who is live in Tel Aviv with the very latest on the war with Iran. Hi, Trey.
Yeah, Todd, Carly, good morning. Overnight, President Trump returning from Florida, making new comments about the war in the Middle East. He spoke about the success of Operation Epic Fury so far. U.S. Central Command going after many targets overnight. The Israelis also continuing their airstrikes against the Iranian capital of Tehran. They are systematically taking out the military and command structure of the Iranian regime. Now, the president was asked overnight about Iran's new supreme leader. He said this.
Have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be an Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but you know, I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
President Trump very clear on his views about Mujtaba Khamenei. You can see some destruction here in Iran as the Israeli and American strikes continue. These are extensive, not just around the capital of Tehran, but across the country. The Iranian Navy, Air Force, and ground forces being decimated by this campaign. Now, Iran's foreign minister also speaking out about the conflict and the new supreme leader, saying this.
Well, first of all, it's too soon, for him to make any comment. We are all waiting for his speeches and comments, which should come later on. But I don't think the question of talking with Americans or negotiation with Americans once again would be on the table because, we have a very, bitter experience of talking with Americans.
As these new comments are coming in from the Iranians, the Israelis are looking north toward the Lebanese capital of Beirut, where they are still today striking new targets of the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. Hezbollah launching new rockets and mortars over the border overnight. And the Israelis say they will continue to hold ground positions in southern Lebanon in preparation for the possibility of further attacks. Guys?
Israel, no stranger to a two-front war. So, Trey, during that press conference yesterday, the president took a lot of questions about where this war stands and the success of it so far, how long it will take. Over a weekend, what is the feeling inside Israel right now regarding all of that?
The feeling in Israel is that this should go on as long as it takes to destroy the threat from the Iranian regime. The Israeli people see the threat firsthand. They have lived under the rocket and missile fire, not just from the regime itself, but from the proxies like Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, not to mention Hamas and Islamic Jihad, who in the past have received support from the Iranian regime. And so the Israeli people broadly want this to get finished, but they're willing to pay a price if it means more security and stability across their region.
While the United States may say our time here is done, that doesn't mean Israel is necessarily going to follow suit, even though we joined in this mission at the exact same time. Trey Ying's live for us this morning. Trey, thank you. Let's go now to Madeline Rivera live in Washington with more reaction from the Trump administration. Maddie.
Good morning, Todd and Carly. Well, regarding that timeline, I know Carly brought it up. The president says the U.S. is ahead of its initial 4 to 5 week estimated time frame, citing the destruction of Iran's Navy, communications, and Air Force.
On Iran, you called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to...
soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are 2 levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But 2 levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
But we're hearing some conflicting signals here because the president is also threatening more military action if Iran blocks oil supply, writing on Truth Social, if Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Iran is effectively preventing vessels from transiting the Strait of Hormuz, which is a global choke point for oil and gas. Per Iranian state media, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warns it will not allow a single liter of oil to be exported from the region as long as the conflict continues. Oil prices have surged as a result, and now the Wall Street Journal reports the president is being urged by advisors to find an off-ramp to quell political backlash. It comes as you heard the president say in that soundbite that Trey played. He admits he is disappointed about Iran's new supreme leader, saying his leadership would lead to more of the same problems in the country. The president says he also spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin. That's an interesting development, given reports that Russia is providing Iran with intelligence of U.S. military targets. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, they are expected to hold a Pentagon briefing today at 8 a.m. and expect them to get questions about the president's timeframe here. Todd and Carly.
We'll be watching. Maddie, thank you.
Maddie.
Meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance attending last night's dignified transfer for the 7th U.S. soldier killed in Operation Epic Fury. The Pentagon identifying the soldier as 26-year-old Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of Glendale, Kentucky. Pennington was a member of an elite space brigade, was killed during an Iranian attack on the air base he was stationed at in Saudi Arabia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday honoring our fallen service members.
The United States is currently engaged in an operation targeting one of the world's leading hostage taker, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism, the regime in Iran. And first, I think we would all take a moment both to offer our thoughts, our prayers, and our condolences, and to honor the families of those who have fallen, the 7 Americans who have lost their lives in the initial hours of this operation, incredibly brave Americans.
Sergeant Pennington joins Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Lamore, Sergeant First Class Noah Teachins, Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, and Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzan as the American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
I'm Steve Juice. There you have it, you guys. And we honor those soldiers that have made the ultimate sacrifice to keep our nation safe. And we're also hearing that Iran is now threatening the president of the United States as well. As I'm sharing with you, coming out in just the past couple of hours, some breaking news coming out today, March 10th, 2026, that top Iranian security officials are threatening Trump with death. Watch out for yourself lest you be eliminated as a result of Donald Trump saying that Iran will be hit 20 times harder if they don't back off of the Strait of Hormuz and remove those potential mines that they're saying are being placed in the water. Breaking news coming out in about the past 30 minutes or so, Trump posting again saying that 10 boats now have been eliminated in the Strait of Hormuz that they believe were dropping mines. And we're also hearing, in addition to threatening Donald Trump, they're threatening U.S. citizens here on the homeland, on U.S. soil. Let me know, are you concerned about those threats? We're hearing that as of yesterday, I shared with you in the live stream, that now they're saying that the trigger to initiate and activate the sleeper cells has been started. That they're saying right now, do your attacks if you so choose. And some of those attacks might be on Donald Trump himself. Let me know in the comments, yes or no. Are you concerned about sleeper cell attacks here on U.S. soil? But let's go ahead and continue on. We've got more video footage coming out. Want to get you caught up on the latest as we're hearing U.S. marks the most intense day yet of strikes on Iran today, March 10th, 2026.
President Trump saying the war in Iran is moving ahead of schedule. This as the Wall Street Journal reports advisors are urging the president to find an exit ramp to avoid political backlash. Brett Baer, he joins us now. And Brett, here's a headline. The Wall Street Journal. Trump advisors urge him to find an Iran exit ramp, fearing political backlash. Is that, I mean, that maybe there's some of that, but it doesn't seem that the president is being swayed that way, at least yet.
Yeah, that's right. Dana, Bill, good morning. I think that his messaging yesterday was directed towards the markets, the oil markets. Listen, calm down. It's going to end. We see a light at the end of the tunnel. These targets are going away. It'll end very soon. That's what he said numerous times. He even called it a short excursion. But when you listen to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs this morning, you know, they are methodically going through target lists that they have developed over weeks and months and calling this the most intense day yet as far as strikes. So they have more to do, but they are coming to the end. And note that Iran is 90% less as far as firing ballistic missiles, 83% less as far as firing drones, and they believe that capability as time goes on is diminishing.
And Brett, you've been hearing the criticism from all the Democrats out there. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona says, despite what you just said, that nothing has been accomplished in Iran from a strategic perspective. Take a listen.
Regime change didn't happen. The son of the Ayatollah might be worse than the dad. The president said last summer we obliterated the nuclear weapons that they had and the uranium. That wasn't the case because now they're talking about ground operations to remove what's left. So I don't see from a strategic perspective what was accomplished.
Brett, to the point you just made, Iran's Navy is largely gone. Their leadership has been wiped out. Their missiles are being degraded. What do you think the senator's talking about?
I don't know. I really don't, Bill. I think that if you listen to those briefings, that's kind of cut and dry. When Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Raisin Kane, says one by one the numbers and the capabilities that have been erased by the U.S. military, that's significant. That is less of a threat to U.S. bases in the region. It's less of a threat to our Gulf Arab allies. By the way, UAE, we've just witnessed these 11 days. They've taken on more missiles and drone attacks than Israel exponentially. And the president saying that he believed, and intelligence was telling him that Iran was getting ready for a big attack. That's where he put the imminence and the urgency. And I think they're going to continue to degrade Iran, but I doubt that this goes too much longer into, weeks.
Okay. There was also this call that President Trump had with Putin. A lot of people wondering what happened. Let's listen to how the president described it.
I had a very good call with President Putin. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful. I said, you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over with. That would be more helpful.
Anything more to add to that, Brett?
Well, listen, it comes after these reports and even some senior administration officials saying that Russia was providing targeting information to Iran about U.S. troops in the region. So you know, all of these calls with President Putin may sound great, and we've heard them numerous times on the Ukraine situation, that he's willing to be constructive, but there's not movement. So I think there is, you know, some skepticism about Putin's role and how he's going to finish this in Iran as far as helping, being constructive, and more importantly, how he gets to a negotiated settlement with Ukraine, because that's hasn't moved, really.
No.
Brett, we got about 30 seconds left here. You talk to the president pretty often. He's been aggressive this year, right? He went into Venezuela, now he's in Iran. What kind of message do you think he's trying to send to our other adversaries, namely Russia and China, by doing these operations?
Well, I think it's a message that the U.S. is formidable. I think that you're seeing a lot of pressure on Cuba in a number of different ways, that regime is probably going to, you know, cry uncle pretty soon, at least if you listen to the people inside the administration. And all of that sets up this China trip at the end of the month to meet with Xi Jinping. So we'll be on that trip. It'll be fascinating, because the positioning of the U.S. because of all of this, we'll see where it develops and where it stands at that point.
There you have it, you guys. Now, let me know your thoughts. You heard them mention that Donald Trump also had a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. He has one coming up with Xi Jinping of China. Who do you feel is the greatest threat right now to the United States? Is it China, Russia, North Korea, Iran? Drop it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. But we're hearing that the United States right now is dealing with Iran. But what if Russia or China actively got into a conflict with the U.S.? Who would be the main person that you would be concerned about coming up against the U.S. in a potential war? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But let's take a look at some more updates here, as we're hearing the Pentagon issued a direct warning to the Iranian people in the last 24 hours before these strikes hit, warning the people of Iran, stay in your homes. We are coming with the biggest strike you have seen so far against the IRGC to eliminate the regime. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video footage so that way you can see it for yourself.
The Pentagon issuing a direct warning to the Iranian people: stay home. The U.S. says the regime is operating from heavily populated civilian areas, putting innocent lives at grave risk. The U.S. now confirming the death of a 7th service member from Operation Epic Fury. Our Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin with more now here in Washington. Jennifer?
John, most American service members killed and injured since the start of this operation were hit by Iranian missiles in the first weekend of the strikes as part of Iran's first round of response, we're told. Sergeant Benjamin N. Pennington, 26, of Glendale, Kentucky, died March 8th from injuries sustained on March 1st at Prince Sultan Air Base, Saudi Arabia. He was assigned to 1st Space Battalion out of Fort Carson, Colorado. Soon he will be returned home to Dover, met by Vice President J.D. Vance. Sergeant Pennington was in the process of being transferred to Landstuhl, Germany for further care when he succumbed to his catastrophic injuries. 8 additional U.S. service members are currently fighting for their lives at U.S. military hospitals. Earlier today, a second Iranian ballistic missile was intercepted over Turkey, where the U.S. has a key base at Incirlik. Amidst reports, the Russians are providing targeting intelligence to Iran.
Are you receiving any help from Russia?
Well, we have a strategic partnership with Russia.
So that's a yes?
And well, a military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not something new. It's not a secret. It has been in the past and is still there and will continue in the future.
Last night, Secretary Hegseth spoke to 60 Minutes.
Does this put U.S. personnel in any more danger than they otherwise would be?
Well,
the Russian involvement.
No one's putting us in danger. We're putting the other guys in danger. That's our job. So we're not concerned about that. We mitigate it as we need to. Our commanders factor all of this, but the only ones that need to be worried right now are Iranians that think they're going to live.
Separately, CENTCOM issued a warning to Iranians to stay home and away from crowded areas like markets or funerals or schools because the IRGC is placing mobile missile launchers and one-way attack drones amidst the crowds, knowing the U.S. is likely to strike back, causing civilian deaths, which would be a propaganda win for the regime. John?
All right, we'll keep watching it all unfold.
There you have it, you guys, and we are hearing that Iran has fired a second missile towards Turkey that was shot down yet again. And a lot of people very concerned when we saw the first one flying towards Turkey, as they were saying, hey, this is a NATO nation. Are we going to see Article 5 initiated? Could this turn into a global conflict, not just a regional one? Could we see World War III unfold? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this going to continue on and become a global conflict? World War III? If you think so, put WW3 in the comments. If you think no, put no. But let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage here on Iran as new supreme leader and Donald Trump saying he is not happy. And he says, though, the talks are still possible. Let's go ahead and take a look.
So here we go. In just a couple hours, the Pentagon is set to hold a press conference to update us on the latest from Operation Epic Fury.
It comes after Vice President J.D. Vance attended last night's dignified transfer for a 7th soldier killed in this unprecedented mission. The Pentagon identifying the soldier. He's 26-year-old Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of Glendale, Kentucky. Pennington was a member of an elite space brigade and was killed during an Iranian attack on an air base he was stationed in Saudi Arabia.
Pennington joins Captain Cody Cork, Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore, Sergeant First Class Noah Teachins, Sergeant Declan Cody, Major Jeffrey O'Brien, and Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzan as the American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice for all of us.
Meanwhile, the operation is still in full force. President Trump says that the U.S. has now struck more than 5,000 targets across Iran, but revealed yesterday he thinks that the fighting will be over soon.
On Iran, you called it an excursion. You said it would be over soon. Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very
to...
soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership.
Let's go now to Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv after speaking exclusively to President Trump hours ago. Trey, we hear the sirens.
Yeah, hey, Brian, good morning. Overnight, I spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes as he traveled back to Washington from Florida, getting some new insight on the commander-in-chief's thinking about Operation Epic Fury, the success so far, and what he thinks about Iran's new supreme leader. I asked him about Mojtaba Khamenei, and he said that he's not happy with this selection. He goes on to say, I don't believe he can live in peace. And as the president spoke about the new leadership selection in Iran, he also gave some new details on the timing of this operation and why it needed to take place when it did. He said, when we attacked them first, we knocked out 50% of their missiles. And if we didn't, it would have been a much harder fight. He goes on to say, no other president had the guts to do it. I don't want some president who hasn't got the courage in 5 or 10 years to go in. President Trump making clear that by taking this action, he believes that within 3 days, if he didn't order these strikes against the Iranian regime, that Iran would have attacked first, and if they were able to get a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. Now, I asked the president whether or not he's open to talks with the Iranian regime, and he told me that he's hearing they want to talk badly, and he goes on to say it's possible, depends on what terms, possible, only possible, you know, we sort of don't have to speak anymore, you know, if you really think about it, but it's possible. And so the president, as he did leading up to this operation, is leaving open the door to diplomacy, understanding that the Iranian regime is getting hit hard right now when it comes to their military leadership and also their infrastructure. The Americans and the Israelis have gone after the Iranian Navy, they've gone after the army and other positions across the country, and right now they are decimated. They're losing their ability to fire missiles and drones, and at this point, as the president told me, he said he is hearing they are ready to talk. Guys?
So, Trey, now that you know, the president talks about them being decimated, are you seeing less frequency of drones and rockets in Israel?
Absolutely. We are seeing far fewer missiles. It was actually a 10-hour lull in launches overnight as the Iranians are having trouble getting off large barrages. And the president even said there were times over the past week where they fired dozens of missiles at a single time. And he told me there were moments where 100% of those missiles were shot down. And so what the United States has been able to do here, according to President Trump, is basically take out Iran's ability to respond. And while there are still missiles flying toward Gulf countries and toward Israel, their ability to attack these countries and U.S. forces in the region is being depleted. And the president told me that he was actually surprised when Iran launched these attacks against Gulf countries who were not attacking Iran. but it just speaks to how unstable the regime is and how unpredictable they are. And that is why the president is concerned about this new leader selection, Mustafa Khamenei, understanding that he is the son of his late father, the man who was killed in the opening strikes of Operation Epic Fury, and he's also considered a hardliner with close ties to the IRGC.
Yeah, Trey, what do you make of some of these reports about Iran sending out a suspected operational trigger to activate these sleeper cells abroad after the Ayatollah was killed? There were some encrypted messages that were intercepted by the United States.
It's absolutely concerning to both American and Israeli intelligence agencies, and that's why they've urged vigilance among the populations around the world, understanding that the Iranian regime could try to respond on the ground with sleeper cells or agents in different areas. What I gather, though, from my conversation with the president as it relates to what comes next is that he's warning them that they shouldn't take any chances in terms of attacks against American citizens or allies around the world, because the U.S. still has so much firepower in the region, and they have planned for a variety of contingencies. So if the Iranians start to launch these types of attacks or continue their attacks against U.S. forces in the region, they will continue to be decimated by the U.S. Air Force and the Israeli planes that are currently over the skies of their country.
So, Trey, what's hurting this country and the world markets is the Strait of Hormuz. So far, there's no tankers who are going really through there, maybe one or two. So the president's got to reopen it. It looks like France is sending 10 ships there. It looks like they could do some of the escorting. We have ships. We could do some of the escorting. And now they're talking about possibly taking Karg Island, this oil island where 90% of Iranian oil is pumped from. The president, ironically, talked about taking this island as far back as 1988 in an interview when he was selling his book, The Art of the Deal. What would taking Karg Island do? And what there seems to be a lot of upside in doing it.
Yeah, look, it would be a major game changer on the ground. What the president has been able to do so far is decimate the Iranian Navy. Remember the Gulf of Oman. This was an area where the Iranians sent some of their most elite ships, and the president talked about this during our conversation. The United States took out all of those vessels, and they're currently at the bottom of the sea. And so whether it's Karg Island or any of the other infrastructure near the Strait of Hormuz, the Americans have the ability to operate both from the air and possibly even other options when it comes to putting pressure on the Iranian regime. And again, this runs in parallel to an operation that we saw just a few days ago over the weekend when the Israelis struck the oil storage facilities around the capital of Tehran. You saw those images of the black smoke billowing up. The bottom line here is that there's an immense amount of pressure on the Iranian regime as this operation continues. And you've seen the destruction across Iran. You've seen the ability for the Americans and the Israelis to put pressure from the air. But there are these questions about if there are other options being considered on the ground, especially as it relates to Karg Island and other areas of Iran.
It would stop 90% of their oil. They would have nothing literally to fuel their economy. So it seems to be the only way to get their attention. Trey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
There you have it, you guys. And again, that Strait of Hormuz issue, we're hearing that's unfolding today. I shared with you the post actually coming out from Donald Trump. You can see here at 3:07 p.m. Central Standard Time. So it's currently almost 5 o'clock, so less than 2 hours ago when he issued those warnings. And then we got the update at 3:20 p.m. That he said that they had hit 10 inactive mine-laying boats and or ships. So the United States making work of those ships that they said potentially could lay mines. They had warned Iran, Donald Trump hitting them, and quickly, within the past hour, we're hearing he has already made good on that threat. And that is why we have also seen, as I mentioned to you, Iran coming out and threatening Donald Trump, saying that watch out for yourself to Trump, lest you be eliminated. Top Iranian security officials threatened Trump with death. So a lot coming out today. Now also, we're hearing, take a look at this, it is up to the Iranian people to rise up against the regime, experts say. They're saying that Donald Trump is doing everything he can to eliminate the IRGC, but it's going to be up to the Iranian people. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip so that way you can see the latest for yourself.
Our next guest knows all about the war on terror. Former Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force, retired Brigadier General John Tykert, and he joins us now. Good morning to you, General.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's the headline? What stands out to you after watching that press conference?
First of all, Ainsley, I want to stress the fact that it started and ended in the prepared remarks with the discussion of the dignified transfer, that freedom is not free and we're honoring our fallen. And then the two other points, number one, they did highlight, as I expected, the massive progress in rolling back Iran's power projection and threatening capabilities. But then number two, I think they stressed a target set that they hadn't really done before, which is industrial capacity. And I think that is massively important, that now the strikes are focusing on not just eliminating the current threat, but the long-term threat to set Iran back, regardless of what happens with the regime, for years, if not decades. And that's an important shift of our targeting focus.
So, General, I guess one of the major questions, you know, even Brian and I have gone back and forth on it. Is there a way to break the will, or is it just decimation? Because it seems like, unlike some of the other regimes as we've dealt with, it's a deep-rooted ideology, meaning they're never going to surrender at all.
Lawrence, that's a great question. And I think what we can do militarily to help is starting to strike, and I know we've done so, like Secretary Pompeo said, their internal security sites, so that we decrease their ability to repress and give the people in Iran the opportunity to rise up. And like Secretary Pompeo said, the regime change is up to the Iranian people. We can provide air cover and top cover, but it is up to the people, 90 million strong, to rise up. Hopefully there's some organized opposition groups. And right now, as we strike internal security sites, we're giving them their best opportunity in decades.
Would you take Karg Island? Should that be one of our objectives, where 90% of the oil transfers to in Iran?
Brian, I think that's a great idea, and I hope and expect that there are plans potentially to do so. I did find it interesting in the press conference that only via a question did they mention the Straits of Hormuz, apart from destroying the Navy. And I expect that if tasked, like the chairman said, we're going to start escorting tankers. But I think holding that island is a specific and tactical and strategic position that could allow us, again, to make headway in opening up energy flows and holding high ground of importance that would hurt Iran significantly.
So what I think is also important is they say that right now the reason why the strait is not open is because they still have missiles that can go 200 and 300 miles. Even though the Navy sunk, the missiles are not destroyed. That might take another 2 weeks. Should we just be patient?
Brian, I think we should be patient, but I also know that if we escort via the United States Navy and maybe our allies and partners, then we have defensive capabilities. We also need to stand up this insurance market as well. But I think as we destroy their capabilities on the ground and have escort capability to defend as they transit, then that gives us an opportunity potentially sooner rather than later to see energy flows start back up again.
General, real quickly, we only got 25 seconds. Is there a way to do that without ground troops on the ground to secure the strait, but not have troops on the ground? Or do we need them there?
Lawrence, if we destroy their targets that power project on their land, and we've got defensive capabilities that are flowing through the straits that can escort, then I think that's the option to get those energy flows back up and running.
All right, there we go. They can't replenish their missile stock. We could just destroy it. So that's key.
Thank you so much, General.
And there you have it, you guys. And speaking of that, we actually had heard as well the concerns about a ground invasion into Iran. Now, we had heard initially that the Kurds were considering this, to coming from Iraq into Iran. But we've also heard that the United States, the Trump administration, has not taken off the table potential U.S. ground invasion as well. This is under consideration. A lot of people very concerned about that, wondering if that is the route that we're going to go, because they said that we need to ensure that we get a hold of that enriched uranium that are at those nuclear facilities and get it out of there or dilute it, so that way Iran does not have the capabilities of having a nuclear weapon. However, a lot of people don't want to see a ground invasion take place. They're concerned that this could turn into a forever war. We have our troops with boots on the ground in Iran. Let me know your thoughts. Should we have a ground invasion? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts. We're hearing that right now this potentially could be a path forward, but we will see. They're saying that they are not sure yet. I'll be sure to keep you up to date on that, but let's take a look at some more video footage coming out here today. A lot coming out, and it is about Iran's thirst to kill the United States, it is unending, it says, and we've heard, as I mentioned to you, in the past hour or so, Iran threatening to kill Donald Trump. Yesterday, we heard that Iran has initiated or activated their sleeper cells to commit attacks here on U.S. soil, and we're hearing that they are just relentless, despite the fact that it appears they are gravely losing here in the conflict between Iran and the United States. Well, let's take a look at some more video footage so you can see the latest for yourself.
And we want to continue to show that live video to you right now. That is the capital of Lebanon. And for years, Iran's main proxy there, Hezbollah terrorists, which operate like a killing machine, have been under pressure to stop firing on Israel. Well, right now, they're getting hit, and this is part of the Israeli defense operation Roaring Lion, which side by side with our United States Operation Epic Fury has hit Iran hard and its proxies. So to see that smoke rising over the capital city of Lebanon has got us in panic into that government, because just yesterday we took it live when the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, was here in New York and spoke from the United Nations and said Lebanon is reaching out for direct talks. You know why? Because they're terrorists and they do business just like what is happening in Iran right now and what Hamas has done in the past. They endanger their own citizenry to go after their enemies, and they know that. And so they want some direct talks now. You want to know how much President Trump has made a difference in the Middle East? Look at your screen right now. With combined forces with Israel now, the United States in a conversation, Israel in a conversation about, should we take a call from the Lebanese government? No, you don't at this point. That's what their pushback has been. No direct talks, according to Danon, Ambassador Danon. No, not until they rein in Hezbollah. And just to make sure you know that we're serious, you see the screen. That's their capital. The very latest video just into Fox, and Israeli forces are finding and destroying missile launchers inside Iran as well. The IDF, new airstrikes on the capital of that country, Tehran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says we are, quote, breaking their bones. The rogue regime is vowing to fight against the U.S. and our allies. It responded with a wave of fresh attacks. And just moments ago, reports from the airports in Dubai and Abu Dhabi as they get ready for whatever much more might be coming. I know at least one of them has shut down in the last little while. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. U.S. Central Command has released that video of U.S. forces blowing up Iranian missiles. CENTCOM has a message to the radical Islamic regime of Iran. The U.S. won't stop looking, and when we find them, we're taking them out. Photographs posted by CENTCOM display the U.S. firepower our military is using as it fights Iran's brutal authoritarian government. A map showing the staggering number of regime targets the U.S. military has hit so far. Remember, I mentioned 5,000. It's also damaged or destroyed dozens of Iranian ships. We put their navy underwater. You heard that from President Trump. The Pentagon gave an operational update just a couple of hours ago. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth warned there is a lot more to come.
On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives. Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing.
President Trump again speaking out about Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. That's the son of the Ayatollah who forces took out.
Do you have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son? I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
Fox News correspondents are covering the story from every angle, multiple locations, as we do, bringing you the very latest developments in the conflict unfolding minute by minute. We begin with Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. And Trey, I know you spoke by phone with the president overnight.
Harris, good morning. I spoke last night with President Trump about Operation Epic Fury. He doubled down on his position about Iran's new supreme leader, saying that Mojtaba Khamenei, he's not happy with this selection. He said, I don't believe he can live in peace. The president went on to describe more about his decision-making process, saying, when we attacked them first, we knocked out 50% of their missiles, and if we didn't, it would have been a much harder fight. The president went on to say no other president had the guts to do it. I don't want some president who hasn't got the courage in 5 years or in 10 years to go in. President Trump added, if they would have had a bomb, they would have used it on Israel and other parts of the Middle East, I think, and probably us, if they could get it there, but it would have been tough. The president speaking as Israel is launching new strikes today against the Iranian capital of Tehran. You can see in some of these explosions here, they are flying alongside American jets, taking out the military infrastructure of the Iranian regime. Earlier today on Fox News, General Daniel Kane said this about the situation.
CENTCOM continues to make progress across the southern flank. To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS-penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability.
Again, you saw those remarks from General Kane on Fox News earlier today alongside the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. You can see here some of the destruction across Iran. The Iranian regime is continuing to get hit hard in the capital and also on that western flank where many of the ballistic missile launching positions are. We understand those launches are down around 90% since the early days of the war. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking out again today about this operation.
Our aspiration is for the Iranian people to cast off the yoke of tyranny. Ultimately, it depends on them. But there is no doubt that through the actions taken so far, we are breaking their bones, and our hand is still extended.
As the Israelis are looking east, they're also looking north to the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Massive explosions rocking the Dakhia neighborhood of southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold. We also understand, according to the IDF today, Harris, they continue to push ground forces into defensive positions in southern Lebanon in preparation for more kinetic activity against this terror organization. Harris?
Trey, thank you very much.
Our generation understands this fight. For 47 years, these barbaric savages in the Iranian regime have murdered our brothers in arms. Now they race toward a nuclear bomb to hold the world hostage. That race to a nuclear bomb, President Trump will never allow it. Not now, not ever.
More on the mission from Secretary Pete Hegseth this morning. He also offered a prayer of protection for our brave troops willing to sacrifice all to protect America. Vice President J.D. Vance joined the family of Army Sergeant Benjamin Pennington for his dignified transfer home. Sergeant Pennington was killed by an enemy strike in Saudi Arabia. He is the 7th service member killed since Operation Epic Fury began. The president talking about when the conflict could end.
Very soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. In fact, there are 2 levels of leadership, and even actually, as it turns out, more than that. But 2 levels of leadership are gone. Most people have never even heard about the leaders that they're talking about. So it's obviously been very, very powerful, very effective.
In focus now, Vice Admiral Robert Harward, member of George W. Bush's National Security Council, also served as a U.S. Navy SEAL in Iraq and Afghanistan. Sir, good to see you this morning. Look, it sounds like we're looking at that live video. I don't know if where you're sitting you can see this, but seeing Beirut on fire after getting struck over and over and over, the capital of Lebanon, the talk about perhaps direct talks reining in Hezbollah. What are your immediate thoughts about what we're accomplishing here?
Look, it's unprecedented destruction and military power of not only Iran, but its surrogates as Hezbollah. I was struck by the announcement by the government of Lebanon 2 days ago, where they're in the fight against Hezbollah as well. And they made a public declaration that any offensive operations conducted by Hezbollah was illegal. So they've turned on Hezbollah as well, which is a challenge in Beirut itself. So I think all fronts are coalescing in this fight against Iran and their surrogates.
Talk to me from your perspective as a Navy SEAL, what it means to put those ships by Iran at the bottom of the sea. There's so much talk about oil and the Strait of Hormuz, but I want to get the history and what it means when you can put our kind of military might in that region, because we are hearing that that is a possibility, that they'll protect ships and get things going again.
Without a doubt, and that's what we've built our military force to do. But to see it in action at this scale is just makes you very proud to be an American and proud of the investment in our armed forces and the people who serve. They're willing to put their lives at risk for long-term peace, security, and stability, and that's the end objective here. Iran's been building up this force for 47 years. They've used it to strike other countries in the region, to kill our people, to develop nuclear weapons, and now we're saying no more. That's come to a halt. Now the question becomes, how do we get to the point where they will not reconstitute that, or when the fighting's over, ensuring there's a government that's not focused on rebuilding that offensive, but building peace, security, and stability. That's the big question.
Yeah, and creating a window for there to possibly be a regime change, because that is kind of the byproduct of all of this. It may not be forefront, but it's the byproduct to give those people on the ground a chance to take their country back. I want to get to this. Wall Street Journal editorial board is calling out those who say the United States should end this war after less than 2 weeks. Here's part of it, quote, "Is it time for the president to call off the bombing and declare victory? You'd think so, judging by the panic in Washington as the price of oil spikes. Allies agree on the need to end the threat from Iran's regime, which can be done by removing it or, second best, its capabilities. Trump doesn't need the regime to fall to call Operation Epic Fury a success, but stopping now amid some short-term economic discomfort would be a victory for the mullahs." Your reaction?
That's exactly right. You can't stop now. If we were to stop now, it's a victory for the regime. They would only be more empowered and would reconstitute. They go back to building more missiles, get back on their nuclear program. We need a government in Iran that will not pursue those offensive capabilities and be a threat to their partners and us in the region. And so we've got to stay in the fight till we accomplish that. So this short-term pain that we're suffering, spike in oil prices, the threats, I think that's going to dissipate in the very near future. And then we can focus on the longer-term objectives, what the next government in Iran will look like and how they will act.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on the economy. I don't know about those threats. I mean, we have millions of people who are not vetted who are in this country, and we're already seeing a higher alert for terrorism. Their thirst to kill us is unending. But I'm just praying we'll be ready.
Harris, you've hit it. That's indicative of how bad a problem this had become. That we would allow Iran not only to threaten in the regions, but establish networks in the United States, right, and we have to protect that. That's completely unacceptable. So we've got to eradicate all of those components, and all of those are linked to the government of Iran.
Vice Admiral Harward, thank you.
There you have it, you guys. And we're hearing that Donald Trump is saying that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, because if they did, they shout death to America, death to Israel. They call Israel the little Satan, the United States the great Satan. And he is saying that this war is going to be over with here very soon. We heard there potentially could be boots on the ground to go in and capture that enriched uranium, try to dilute it or get rid of it. But they said that they cannot allow the IRG to possess that. If you appreciate that, drop a 47 in the comments for the support for the Trump administration. However, the question now is, how long is this going to endure? Because we had heard that Donald Trump said this was going to be over very quickly. This coming out in the last 24 hours. And now people are wondering, though, we have heard, though, that the Pentagon has said that they could be planning for this war to go out till September. So let me know your thoughts. Is this war going to be lasting weeks, months? I even saw some people saying this could go years. Now, we will see, but Donald Trump coming out and saying his reasoning behind this is the fact that we've wiped out everything from the IRGC. Their armies, their leaders, their resources, their ships, everything is being destroyed. So he said they're not going to last much longer. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. Weeks, months, years, how long will this conflict continue on? But we're hearing, despite that, the IRGC just in the past couple of hours threatening the life of Donald Trump yet again. In the last 24 hours, threatening the life of American citizens here on U.S. soil with sleeper cell attacks. And take a look. You can see it for yourself. Top Iranian security officials threatening Trump with death. This coming as we're also hearing that today marks the most intense day of strikes on Iran. And the new supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's son, Moshtaba, has been set in place as the new Islamic supreme leader. However, we're going to see what goes on there because Donald Trump's saying he is not happy about that the United States needs to be a part of the selection of the new supreme leader. Now, in addition to that, also mentioned earlier on, I'm going to mention it again for you, people asking me what they should be doing with their finances during a time of war, what to do with money. Well, I'm going to be looking into that, providing resources for you. But also, take a look at this. Just wanted to mention this, how to slash $461 from your car insurance bill in less than 10 minutes. We're hearing that people that change car insurances, you can save a lot of money. That's one way to do it. Just takes a couple of minutes to check. Car insurances, they bank on the fact that you're going to stick with them. You're not going to look into switching. And every year they up your prices just a little bit till you're paying outrageous amounts. So people that want to save money, I got that linked in the description for you. It just takes a couple minutes. See if you can save $461. But you guys, a lot going on with the war. And I'll keep you up to date on everything so you know exactly what is going on. That is the latest. Do me a favor, if you haven't done so yet, hit the thumbs up like button, subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. And turn on the notification bell because a lot of updates. I might go live again later tonight or I'll catch you guys tomorrow. But pretty much doing daily updates, sometimes twice a day. We will see. But you guys, that is the latest. I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.